I'm going to start recording locally here. So welcome everyone to the Malwarebytes Endpoint Protection Part 1 of our webinar. I'm joined here by Michael Sherwood and Alex Smith, both with Malwarebytes.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for being here today, guys. I'm really excited because Malwarebytes, they have a lot more than just the anti-malware. The free one that you're actually not supposed to use for free, but everyone does because they just want to install it and clean up their customer's computer and then give them back a nice shiny computer. They've got a lot more than that free, not free product. So I'm excited to learn more about what Malwarebytes is doing. So part 1 today, we're doing endpoint protection. Part 2, which will start in about 45 minutes and will be a separate webinar, that will be on the Tech Bench and Toolset. Did I say that right?
You got it.
Awesome. And yeah, I think we're just going to dive in. So are we going to have both of you educating us today, or is it going to be primarily Michael or Alex?
Alex is going to take the first half of the endpoint protection, and then I'm going to talk about a better than free but not free product, but it actually is free, Tech Bench for the second half.
Okay, so I'll start and I'll introduce you, Michael. If you could let everyone know what your role is at Malwarebytes, how you got started at the company, maybe a little background.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Sherwood, and I am the Senior Director of all of our technician services. So that's a fancy title for making sure that we deliver some really good products and services for all of you out there running your independent tech shops. Maybe you've got 1 or 2 techs, or maybe you've got 10 or 15. You are all of our clients, and we're here to serve you. So I've been in the industry, the computer repair industry, for a little over 20 years professionally. Was fortunate enough to fix some computers for the Air Force, United States Air Force, as well as in the private sector, doing a lot of really break fix activities and now managed services as well. Joined Malwarebytes a little over 2 years ago, and really came here to do one thing, which is build those products and services for all of you running your tech shops.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And I'm going to put the spotlight on Mr. Smith now. So Alex, if you could please do the same, give us your title and some background on you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm Alex Smith, Technical Product Manager of Technician at Malwarebytes. So Mr. Michael Sherwood's my, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, he's my boss. And he kind of said it already, we develop products and services basically that are geared towards technicians and tech shops in that kind of computer repair industry. So we're going to show off some of that cool stuff that our team makes a little bit later this afternoon, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about endpoint protection. And me personally, my background, I've been in the computer repair space doing various different things, from actually doing break fix work, doing some remote work, all the way up to actually doing training and an actual kind of tool and software development for the past, almost 20 years. And professionally, definitely for the past 16 years. I joined Malwarebytes a little bit over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, and I've loved it ever since. And I kind of brought my skills in the computer repair space to kind of help out in technician services side of things. On top of doing actual computer repair stuff, I actually have about 7 years of professional training experience, specifically around computer repair, malware removal, and stuff like that. So if you know who I am personally, you probably have heard that I like Microsoft products and I like Windows. That's very true. And I also love malware. So it's a little something personal about myself. So yeah, that's kind of who I am. And we learned a lot about who Sherwood is. And I think I would really like to dive right into the Malwarebytes endpoint protection. Does that sound cool? We want to learn some new stuff today?
I'd love to. Please just dive right in. Educate us.
Sweet. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to share a nice little presentation. This should come up here in just 1 second. All right, does this look good? Are we seeing a PowerPoint presentation and not some random desktop background?
Yep, we're good to go.
Cool. All right. So we're going to dive right on into this. So Malwarebytes endpoint protection. So when we start talking about our endpoint protection product, there's kind of two components to think about. There's the actual kind of cloud platform that everything is kind of run off of, as well as the actual agent, which is where the endpoint protection product lays on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of discuss and give you a brief overview of what those two components are and where we're going with them. And then shortly after that, I'm going to show you an actual live demo so you can kind of see this stuff in real time, in action, and you can kind of see the cool things that we've been working on. So as some of you may or may not know, there's a lot of other competitors out there that have started in the kind of cloud support side of things. So providing a management console or some sort of way to interact with your anti-malware protection software from one single pane of glass or one single dashboard. And so that's kind of where this product is going to kind of shine, is that we have now released our own cloud platform, which we poignantly call the Malwarebytes Cloud Platform. So it's all web-based. So you log into a website, cloud.malwarebytes.com. And once you log in there, you get this kind of singular view of all the endpoints that you manage and that you control. And you can actually group up those endpoints into separate little categories so that way you can kind of more easily manage them. You can deploy specific protection settings. You can apply specific policies, as well as do some basic asset management. So what that means is that you can actually get some hardware details and some software details on those actual devices, so that way you know exactly which one you're looking at, which one you're interfacing with, and play around with it. Plus, you get really cool detailed reports, so you can actually see like how many devices are infected or how many devices had some malware on it that's been cleaned. Anytime that we're blocking any sort of bad web traffic, you can kind of see all that in nice, pretty, easy to read graphs. And then you can also do things like email alerts, so that way if someone does something they're not supposed to, you get an email right away so that you can jump right into the cloud platform and manage the device, maybe initiate a manual scan, so on and so forth. Now, the cloud platform is kind of more of the managerial, controlling the experience, getting things set up. Now, the other half of it, though, is obviously the thing that is on the actual computer that's going to protect you from actual malware. So for those of you that are familiar with Malwarebytes previously, you've probably used it for cleanup of an infection, like you run Malwarebytes free on a computer. And in the past year or so, we've kind of grown up and expanded our protection capability to go above and beyond just being a remediation utility. So the endpoint protection side of things is kind of our business or enterprise grade software that brings a lot of the technologies that you saw released with Malwarebytes 3 last year for consumer, kind of coming into a singular application on the business side. So the endpoint protection agent is a multi-layered protection-based product. So that includes real-time protection. So in the moment, it's going to be able to protect you from zero-day malware and ransomware. It's built off of our existing anti-malware technology. So the thing that we're really known well for, that's built into it. We also have a web traffic filter, and what that's going to do is basically if you try to access or have any sort of traffic that comes from a known bad website or known bad web server, we can stop that traffic from happening in real time on the system. We've also integrated our anti-exploit and anti-ransomware technologies. And what's unique about those two is those two items are signatureless. So what that means is that they don't necessarily rely on a traditional definition database that you're used to seeing with existing anti-malware products. So that way they can actually protect you from something that's brand new in the wild that no one has ever seen before. And so that way it can kind of stop the dropper or the downloader from actually installing or executing its malicious code. And then we've also recently turned on our anomaly detection engine, which is kind of our machine learning technology, which we also kind of turned on or will be turning on soon in the consumer version as well. But it's definitely something that makes our product unique because, we have our traditional definition-based anti-malware web traffic filtering on top of signatureless protection and machine learning. So when you combine all these technologies together, we feel like that this kind of becomes your antivirus next generation replacement. So you can actually run the Malwarebytes endpoint protection, and if we talk consumer side, the Malwarebytes for Windows product, and you don't have to necessarily bring another existing antivirus program with you. You can just use our software. But we do also design our software to work friendly with other antivirus and anti-malware programs. So if you have a favorite that you want to bring along with you, you can do that, and our software will still work fantastic with it. So why would someone be interested in moving to our endpoint protection platform versus our standard consumer offering, or maybe another competitor out there? So the biggest kind of benefits here is that you have very easy management of all your endpoints, and you can easily deploy to a bunch of endpoints. So what I mean by that is that you've got one cloud website that you log into, you get a nice overview of everything that's there. It makes it very easy to see what's going on, and if you need to take action, you can take action right away. And if you need to deploy it to a bunch of endpoints, we not only give you a real easy to use utility to just download that software on that endpoint, but we also make a utility that can scan a network and find all the endpoints on there so that you can actually deploy the endpoint agent to multiple devices in a very, very easy fashion. Next, also, we feel like we have industry-leading malware protection technology, which is obviously a benefit to you and to your clients to keep them protected. And then also, we feel like this software gives you the ability to quickly respond to incidents. So when you get that email notification that something's up, you can quickly resolve it and take care of it. So this is a lot of the whys and some of the cool features that we have that are built into it. But all this that you've seen so far is bullet points, right? And you've seen Alex talk about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you the Malwarebytes cloud platform. So I'm going to log into it and show you one of the devices that I actually got with the endpoint protection installed on it, so you can kind of see the information that you can get from it. And then I'll show you some of the other kind of cool things that you can do in the cloud platform, like adding accounts or adding a group or adding an endpoint. And yeah, that way you'll get a good idea of what's available there. And then we'll open things up to questions. So let me get rid of this PowerPoint presentation real quick. And we will get the cloud console up. And this should hopefully appear all good. I'm going to go nice and full screen here.
Can I just take a break so we can admire that awesome background you have?
Sure. It is a pretty decent background.
What is that?
So this is Zero, which is our Malwarebytes hero, so to speak. He's kind of a part of our brand image, and he's attacking an evil piece of malware that in our kind of branding image, we've kind of dressed up as evil robots. So just a nice little Malwarebytes branded background image. I love it myself. It's actually running on just about every computer that I own, so I totally understand.
That is amazing. How do we get that?
So we actually have a copy of it on our forums, but I can get you guys a link so you can easily download it and get it. So remind me, Steve, after the webinar is over, and I'll get a link so you guys can download that beautiful desktop background.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, please continue.
No problem. All right. So once you log into the cloud platform, this is kind of the basic dashboard. So this is, I've got it installed on one machine right now. I've actually had it installed for a few weeks now. And this is an actual real machine that I actually use on a pretty regular basis. So I'm happy that I haven't been infected yet. That's good. That means I've been a good web surfer for the most part. But this would give you a very basic overview of everything that's going on. So what endpoints are online or infected or offline, any threats that have been cleaned, any tasks that have been performed, and history that's kind of gone on with the device. Now, unfortunately, like I said, I try to be a safe web surfer, so I've not gotten that machine itself infected. But if it had been, you would see that there'd be some of these boxes would fill in with different information. It would say how many were actually infected, and you get some nice little graphs compared to, or showing off the, hey, this is how infected you've been over the past several weeks and months. And then down here, you can actually see that it kind of breaks things down between malware infections, PUPs and PUMs. And for those of you that don't know what a PUP or a PUM is, so a PUP would be a potentially unwanted program, and then a PUM would be a potentially unwanted modification. So this kind of separates it so you can kind of get a much better idea of the type of infections that you're seeing on your endpoints. And if we go to the endpoints kind of drill in here, you can see that I can actually get a good bird's eye view of all of my endpoints. And I've got it installed on a Surface Book, which, wow, that's amazing. Alex has got a Microsoft product in his house. And we can actually see real quickly here that's running the insider preview of Windows 10, because I like to play with the latest and greatest. But notice here that I've got a different group and a specific policy applied to this device. And so what that means is that I can actually group my endpoints into different types of categories, so to speak. So you can see some of these groups that I've got over here. I've got the home group, and what that really means is computers in my house. And then Shasha, that's my wife's maiden name. So if I decided to maybe protect my aunts, or not my aunts, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law's computers, I could add them to that group. And then Smith and Booz, and what that was kind of meant to be was for my side of the family. If I ended up adding devices that I wanted to be able to monitor, they could be there as well. So that way I would be able to manage and know who's infected from what group and kind of keep things separated. So you could use this in a more business or enterprise area where, for example, it's like you have different departments. So you've got the sales department, the marketing department, the technical support department. You could have those as separate groups, so that way you can kind of manage the endpoints and get much more granularity control of the types of settings that they have, so on and so forth. And that's kind of where the policy comes in. That's the settings that you've got set for that particular group. So I'm going to just show just a couple of the other sections here, and then I'll show you how you would actually add an endpoint to the actual platform. So I don't have any threats. Oh, go ahead.
And real quick, Alex, I might recommend, if possible, zooming in some, because for some folks that are on smaller, like I'm on a 27-inch, so this is fine for me, but
yeah,
it might be difficult for them. Thanks, man.
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out. Sorry, I've got a 1440 Quad HD display, so I'm sure that doesn't help. All right, so zoomed in there a little bit. So I'm going to show you actually some real-time protection events, because this has happened to me. So what this is showing right here is that, hey, while Alex was surfing the web, some web traffic did come in from some unsavory websites at different points in time, and it will actually say what category, what it did. It blocked the outbound connection and what it was actually trying to connect to, and which endpoint, and when it actually happened. So this could be good information for you to find out. Maybe you've got someone in the business that's going to places they shouldn't, or they continually have website traffic that gets blocked. Maybe that means there's a behavior change that needs to happen with that employee. So this is definitely going to give you, good information to kind of act upon as needed. All right, so if we go to settings here, this is where we keep everything as far as controlling the policies, setting up scan schedules. I don't have one right now, but if I wanted to, I would just click the new button. It would walk me through a wizard of actually setting up a scan, and I can say when it happens, what to do when threats are found, so on and so forth. But I'm not going to set one up right now. And then I can set up exclusions as well. So if there's any kind of line of business software or anything specific that I need to exclude from being scanned, I can do that from here. Groups, we kind of saw the groups earlier. This is what allows me to kind of manage those groups. So if I needed to have special departments, or maybe it's households, or maybe it's different businesses that I'm managing, you can kind of group them all up in here. And then we also support having multiple users having access to the Cloud Console. So if you need to add an additional user that can manage this, you can do this from here as well. Now, when it comes to adding an endpoint, it's actually real easy. We kind of give you two different ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that makes it a little bit easier for me to show in a live environment. So if you want to add an endpoint, really all you got to do is hit the add button. And it's going to bring this nice little page. It's going to give you different options for installing the different types of endpoint agents that we have out there. So the first group is going to be for your newer operating systems. We do still support XP and Server 2003. And then we can also deploy, if need be, the breach remediation tool. Or if you need something where you need to be able to scan an entire network and deploy software, we have a discovery and deployment tool that's available to you as well as a detailed administrator guide if you want to learn all the ins and outs of how to use that tool. But for this example here, what I'm going to do is actually going to download the 64-bit endpoint agent and actually install it on this machine right now. And so I'm going to just minimize this right now because I did the right thing and ahead of time downloaded it so we wouldn't run into any issues, and hopefully this will appear on the right screen. All right. And I downloaded a version. Oh, you won't see this because UAC popped up. There we go. So it's going to install the endpoint agent as well as any prerequisites. So I downloaded a slightly larger package, of course, except the EULA. And I've got to fill in my server information, which I don't have written down right this second. So hold on. Let me type that in.
And this is the super secret server information, right?
Yeah, it is. So give me just 1 second. And we're going to move this right over here real quick. All right, so when it installs, give me just 1 second here, it's going to finish installing. And what we have with our current endpoint agent, it's actually headless. So you won't actually see it running on the actual system as an end user. So you won't actually see anything running in the taskbar. What you'll actually have access to it is actually from the cloud side of things. So that's really good. So that prevents users from running scans where they're not supposed to, trying to quit the software, trying to kill the software. Now, obviously, you could go into Task Manager and manually kill it and uninstall it, kill it and deal with it that way. But we try to make it a headless situation so you're not getting bothered with pop-ups like, hey, it found something. That's all getting sent to the cloud console instead, so you can actually act upon it. So it should show up here in a moment, but if it doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and show the Service Book one here because mine did not show up right away, but that's okay. Usually it shows up literally within a couple of seconds, but I would be able to see that the endpoint agent is installed. I can see the actual engine version that's there and get all this nice detailed information about the computer as well. So how much memory is on there, the size of the disk drives, any threats that have been found, anything that's currently sitting in quarantine, all the real-time protection events, any events that have happened on the system. This is just basically grabbing additional asset information as time has gone on. And anytime that I've issued a task for this to do, it tells me who issued it. Any sort of scan history that's happened, as we can see here, an old scan happened on this one. I can also see software that was installed on the unit, as well as any updates that have been installed, which this makes sense because I just recently upgraded this to the latest Insider preview build on that Surface Book. So there's only been one update that's installed since that upgrade has occurred. And then I also get some basic access to kind of see some startup programs. So in case I want to see if anything might be malicious or starting up with the system or might be slowing something down, I can get a good quick bird's eye view of that. And then if I need to do any specific tasks to this endpoint at this point in time, I can do that. So for example, if I wanted to say, hey, I want you to do a scan and report, I could click that and it will issue that command to that device and it will actually start scanning in the background. And since it's a headless agent, you're actually not going to see on the end user side, there's not going to be any user interface that's going to pop up and get in their way while they're trying to work or do something else. So it's actually all happening in the background and it will report back to the actual cloud console so I can actually take care of anything that it actually finds. Cool. So that is kind of a brief demo of the cloud console, as well as how you would kind of deploy the endpoint agent, as well as what you can do as far as managing endpoints, sending specific tasks to it, so on and so forth. Now, we do have a trial version of the software if you want to play around with it, so you can kind of get more in depth with it, play with it yourself, get to learn and love it a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the presentation slides here real quick. And before we share out that link, we will take some questions. So let me get this back on the screen. And then let me move this other window over here so I can see the chat window, because that would help, because I'm sure that's where it's going to come from.
I've got the questions already up. Excuse me.
Sweet.
So I'll be the voice of the people, so to speak, and you just focusing on it. You can just focus on answering. So Dwight asked, would Endpoint be suitable for consumer clients?
Alex, I can take that one, Alex. Hey, Dwight. Thanks for joining us from up there in Canada. It's great to see you on the call. So currently, the solution that you see today is geared more towards a what we're kind of calling the mid-market and the larger enterprises. We are working on a, we'll call it a consumer-ish version of this. It's a little bit out. But as you know, working with us, we love to hear feedback from you. So we've got a couple live sessions going right now with some shops that are helping us build essentially some of the important features that would be there for them. But what you saw today is essentially the framework. We've got the cloud platform up, we've got the endpoint agent, and now we need to tweak it a little bit to make sure that it works for shops, well, quite frankly, like your shops.
And I, it's probably been a few months, but I know how Dwight operated last year anyway. So Dwight is an IT shop that he sells like a monthly service to consumers that bring their computers in. And with that monthly service, I'm sure it does the Windows updates and all that fun stuff, and it includes the antivirus. So I think that's more or less what he meant with would it be suitable for consumer clients is this something that he could centrally manage for his consumer clients, and would it protect them from the typical consumer client stuff that they do behind closed doors?
Oh, they do weird stuff. That's odd. Yeah, so today, the solution that you saw would protect them from a traditional kind of Malwarebytes 3 protection. Now, all of the additional things, we actually call them snacks here. So think of the cloud as like a vending machine, and it's got a variety of snacks that are available today. Most of those snacks are really focused on the enterprise and the mid-market clients that we have. And what we have not fully built out are the snacks for the consumers and the shops, or the scenarios in which that you've described with Dwight today. So we've got a few things in the back burner that we've been discussing, whether it's asset management, whether it's looking at Windows updates in a little bit different of a lens, or maybe it's those proactive scans on a monthly basis that lets you, as the shop owner, really know kind of what's going on in those machines on not only a monthly basis, but maybe a quarterly check-in. You can kind of reach out and do those proactive scans, or even on a yearly subscription where you're looking to kind of get them set up with your next year's worth of plan. So again, today it's really designed for the mid and larger markets, but you can make it work for the MB3 portion of the solution. Does that answer your question? I'll have to get a yes or no from Steve.
I feel like it did. I'm sure if there's anything he'd like us to expand on, you can pop it into the chat or into the Q&A.
Sure.
I will move on. Can this platform manage both Windows and Mac versions of Malwarebytes?
So yes, there is a Windows and a Mac endpoint agent. Right now, though, there's not the full real-time protection version of the Mac product right now. It is really just a remediation component on the Mac side. So right now it's primarily Windows focused, but for those of you that have been kind of watching closely on the Mac side of things, we just recently released Malwarebytes for Mac with real-time protection literally earlier this month. So you're going to see something like that for the cloud side of things in the coming weeks and months ahead.
Okay. What's the typical footprint of an agent?
So the agent itself is only a couple of megabytes, but depending on what the current task is, if it has the anti-malware definition database loaded into it, we're going to dynamically adjust the size of what the endpoint agent needs to be depending on the tasks that are being ran. So you could see something in the couple hundred megabyte range, depending on what it's doing. Like if it's doing an active full system scan, obviously it needs more system resources to perform that. But when it's kind of sitting there idle, it depends on how you're looking at Task Manager, but it's probably going to only use a much I can't say exact amounts, but it's going to be a much smaller footprint than what you're probably used to seeing in our traditional Malwarebytes 3 product. But yeah, so it really kind of depends on the task that's being performed at that current moment in time. But it's rather small footprint in general. Okay.
And is it intrusive when someone's using the PC and a scan's running?
It shouldn't be. It should be supporting the putting the scan at a slightly different priority so that it's not affecting the end user. But if you are seeing something different, obviously let us know and let our support team know, and that way we can get that resolved if it is interfering with users, but it shouldn't. But they're not going to see any like user interface prompts or anything like that. So none of that stuff has to be rendered, so to speak. So you're already going to see less overhead in general. So it should be almost non-noticeable.
So it sounds like it silently runs in the background. Is there at least an icon in the corner?
In the current build, there isn't, but I know that is something that our teams are aware of, that some businesses want to see. So I would imagine that you'll see that in a future version where there'll be something very simple, like an icon in the bottom tray with a very basic set of tasks. And I think really the only task that we're looking at adding is the ability to launch a manual scan. But outside of that, it's going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be very limited as far as what you can do, because we don't want these end users doing something that they shouldn't. But
we
yes,
certainly don't.
Yeah. Right now, no. In the future, yeah, you'll see something simple.
No problem. Do all scans currently have to be started from the Cloud Console then?
They do not have to be started from the Cloud Console. So the scheduled, so you'll have to configure it from the Cloud Console at first. So you'll have to set what that schedule is. But once you have a schedule set, it'll actually initiate those automatically for you.
Now, what if the computer's offline?
Good question. Now, if the computer is in an offline state, any scheduled scan that has been assigned to it that it actually deployed to that endpoint agent should still run. But obviously, you're not going to get reported back any information until that device gets back online.
Okay. Can you run like a one-off scan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I think I showed that in the demo. You can actually initiate a one-time scan, but you'd have to initiate that right now from the Cloud Console.
And then, well, okay. So the scan runs. It's super silent. It detects some things. Now what? Does the end user get notified? Oh no, you've got spam or whatever.
Yeah, so it would depend on how you configure your scan settings. So you could actually set it to where it quarantines automatically. You can have it set to where it doesn't quarantine automatically, that it just reports to you that the device is infected. And then depending on how you have that setting set up, you're going to get notified via the cloud interface system. So that would mean if you're logged in, you would see an alert, or if you're not logged in, it actually doesn't matter if you're logged in or not, you're still going to get an email letting you know that one of the systems you protect, there was an infection detected. So if it's set to auto quarantine, it's going to quarantine it for you. So you can decide what you want to do with the items in the quarantine, like if you want to restore them or delete them, or if you got it set to just report to you, what that means is that it's going to just tell you that there's stuff there and that you need to do some sort of action. So that could be quarantine them after you've taken a look at them, or it could mean that you want to initiate a full scan and do a quarantine. So it's kind of really up to you on what the next step ends up being.
So we can have it configured to report to the end user, or we can just have it not tell them anything.
No, so it's not gonna report it to the end user. It is only reporting it to whoever is managing the Cloud Console.
Okay, so there won't be a window that pops up and says, "Dear end user, you've got 5,642 whatevers."
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So so we have to use the console. What about like an RMM or a PSA integration, so that way us MSPs can do this easier?
Excellent question. So I know right now we don't have a direct RMM integration with this version of the product. There are some RMM utilities that use our endpoint security product, which is an earlier version of our business line of products. But we are partnering and working with other RMM solutions. So you should see something in the coming, I'd say, coming quarters, where we start to kind of reach out and support other third-party RMM solutions.
Okay. Now, how's the web filtering work? Like, is that DNS based or something else?
So I'm going to try not to give away too much of the underlying technology, but I'll try to give a good high-level overview. So basically, we have a driver that's running on the system, very similar to other anti-malware software. And basically, we will configure it to kind of monitor that traffic. And if traffic comes in from a particular website or particular domain that we have set to block, it basically stops that traffic once the packet comes in. It says, nope, whatever this came from, it's not allowed. And so if you try to go to a website, for example, that's blocked in your web browser, you actually will see a little Malwarebytes logo, and it'll say that this website was blocked, and it'll tell you which website was actually blocked. On the Cloud Console side of things, you're going to get a report back, kind of like what we saw on my Surface Book there, a list of the web traffic that was blocked. So
it sounds like it's kind of DNS based, where it's looking for URLs that you guys have in a database somewhere and tagged as somehow bad.
Yeah. So that is going to work off of a kind of a definition database type of scenario. Yeah.
So with that said, are you guys able to do any additional web filtering, like I don't want my kids looking at porn or that kind of stuff, like almost like a Cisco umbrella type of product?
Right now, it doesn't do that, but that is definitely on our list of things to eventually bring into our Malwarebytes products, is more control over the web traffic filtering, so you can do more. So you can, if you need to specifically whitelist a site or always set an exclusion, so to speak, on a specific domain or web address, we're going to provide more capabilities to do that in future versions.
Excellent. How does this work? And Andy, I'm not sure that I understand the depth of the question, so I apologize. How does this work with Microsoft Active Directory domains? So I'm not sure if that means for deployment through group policy, or does this impact the user needing admin access locally on a workstation or something along those lines, maybe?
Yeah, I think he's probably more talking about deployment. We actually make a deployment tool that's available from the Cloud Console. I showed it earlier. It's on the bottom there, and there's a special administrator's guide of how to configure it. But yeah, if you're doing Active Directory, you've got an Active Directory-based network, like you can deploy that, and we provide you a tool to help you do that, as well as a complete detailed guide on how to configure it, how to set it up, and the different deployment options that are available.
Okay, so he did elaborate on that. So does it impact the local network DNS? Because I know, like with Cisco Umbrella, you actually have to tell it your local IP subnet, or else it just starts filtering everything that's on the internal LAN.
So we're talking about the web traffic side of it.
Well, this may not actually. So you're not actually changing the DNS settings, because that's how.
No.
Okay, because that's how Cisco Umbrella works, where it actually changes your DNS, points DNS to localhost 127.0.0.1, and then locally that Cisco Umbrella tool is doing whatever it does. So
I get you. Yeah,
if you're not impacting their DNS, they're truly impacting their DNS, then it sounds like this shouldn't impact their local LAN traffic whatsoever.
Correct. I see what you're talking about. Yeah. So no, we're not doing a DNS redirection like that where we're sending it to another server. No, it's all that web traffic filtering is actually kind of happening locally on the device, and that's not going to affect local network traffic.
Okay, here's a softball for you. How can we remove the software? Does it have to be uninstalled through add remove? Can we just click a button in the Cloud Console?
Wow, that is a super softball question. So right now, the way the uninstall experience works is it's actually done through add remove programs right now, but having the ability to do the removal from the Cloud Console is something that will be added in a future build.
Now on the flip side, like, is it something that we could run a command through command prompt to initiate that? Like maybe we could just make a script for our RMM tool to do it?
I've not personally tested it or done it myself, but from a technical perspective, I would say that is possible. But I can't say 100% with certainty that would work. I mean, we're using regular uninstallers, so that should work in theory, but I've not personally tested it, so I can't say with 100% certainty that it would work. But
hey, Steve, this is Sherwood. We are working on what we're calling kind of a standalone. If you're familiar with our MB Clean, which is our Malwarebytes clean utility that helps kind of purge, and this is for like uninstalls that don't go well. So we are working on some, we'll call them enterprise level tools and support for this product, but we don't have that fully up and running right now. We've got it out to a handful of clients. It's in a pretty good beta state right now, but we have not publicly fully and release that tool.
Okay, it seems reasonable. So it's something you're working on. No big deal.
Yeah.
Is there an actual quarantine on the system that we can restore these files if they're an accidental quarantine?
So this is using the existing Malwarebytes technology. So yes, when they are quarantined, they are stored on the physical system itself.
Okay.
But you would have to initiate if you're trying to unquarantine something, you'd have to initiate that command from the cloud console, because that's what actually sends the command to the endpoint agent to actually perform that task. Because when it actually puts something into quarantine, it's not just sitting there as a flat file unmodified, like we protected the file so it can't do anything else on the system. So you would have to do the de-quarantining through the cloud console first.
Okay. Do you have any white labeling or co-branding available with this?
We do not.
Okay. Let's see here. Should I use it for our MSP clients? My concern is how would I handle it from a billing perspective? So I think now we're going to start giving you the hard questions. How much does it cost?
Okay.
Remember, this is being documented by the court of YouTube.
Yep. Sherwood, do you want to answer this question? Because you said this is the one you wanted to be able to answer. So.
No, it's all you, Alex. You can take this one. We do have an introductory price. I'll kind of start with that. And what you'll see on our website is our MSRP pricing that's there. What we would encourage you to do is first check out our trial version that we have. See if it works for you, see what you kind of like, and then reach out to our teams. And we'd love to help kind of not only configure what you have going on, but come up with a price that works for all of you.
So is this like Priceline where I can name my own price?
It is unlike Priceline where you can name your own price. Well, I mean, you can, and I guess we'll use that as a starting point, but.
Fair enough. Well, they always say no to the first one, so.
Yeah. We do not have William Shatner here. He's not a paid spokesperson for us.
Fair enough. Are there any minimums? Like, do we have to buy 50 to start, or can I just get one?
You can start as low as 1.
Okay.
You go up to millions, if memory serves me correctly.
Millions is a very lofty goal. All right. So I hope I say this correctly. Prejay says, "Hey guys, we're an MSP and currently at 50 plus techs. I'm interested in using some form of Malwarebytes as a remediation or possibly an on-demand secondary AV tool across several thousand endpoints or just over 100 customers. I did hear about TechBench, which I think fits the criteria, but it seems to be aimed at smaller partners and has some kind of minimum sales quota. It sounds like this might be a question better answered soon.
Yep.
I don't know if this would be one that you guys want to answer now.
Yeah, this is Sherwood. I can take it. Thanks for the question on this one. So what you're kind of seeing unfold here is we've got a lot of really good enterprise and mid-level kind of traditional IT admin solutions. We also have a really awesome solution for those independent techs. Maybe they've got 5 or 7 or even 10 at their location. Where we don't have a fully baked out solution yet is exactly what you described, kind of those what we're calling mid-market tech shops. So think of that in your 10 to 15 maybe personnel range, or maybe you've got 15 locations with 3 techs each or something like that. And we don't have that fully ready to go today. However, a simple phone call chat with me after this, I'd love to hear what you're doing, and we can certainly make something work for you. We've got on-demand tools, we've got great reselling opportunities for MB3 if you want to deploy those as single endpoints to 10 clients at a time, or even 100 individual clients that you have. So what you see on the website is we quote unquote don't have something available, but a simple phone call to myself or Alex, and we can co-create a solution for you today.
Excellent. I feel like that answered that. Sort
cool. So how does he feel? Does that answer the question?
Oh, I'm sure he'll post something more. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
He hasn't said anything yet. Someone said hoping for access to printable marketing materials, brochures or flyers for customers. Also wondering if I can give them the link to the second webinar. Oh, the second webinar is going to be here. We're going to stay in the same room, guys. You don't have to go anywhere. So marketing materials, what can you give us?
So if we're talking about the endpoint protection agent on our website, actually we have quite a few different data sheets and white papers and kind of reports and analysis of what the endpoint protection software and the cloud platform offer and support. That it's kind of more aimed towards letting the business user or even the IT admin know what's available. And then as well as the kind of the white sheets, the white papers and some actual reports of actual companies and businesses that have used the software, kind of lets them tell their story. We have those types of materials. But if you're looking for like a brochure to hand out in we'll say a tech shop or kind of a retail like location, we don't necessarily have something like that right now. But I know in our Tech Bench program, which we'll talk about later, we don't have something for the regular consumer side either, but it's definitely something that we would be looking to do in the future. So I would say reach out to us, myself and Sherwood, and we can work with our team to see if there's something that we can do for you.
All right, so we still have 7 open questions that I'd like to get through as quickly as possible because it is technically time for us to start part 2. I think we're just going to have to start that one late because I want all of these questions answered.
Okay.
Something Webroot has is the ability to roll back virus and cryptoware damage. Not Internet Explorer, just IE. It tracks unknown application activity until a determination is made. Does Malwarebytes have a similar feature?
Alex, you want to take that one about the EDR stuff, or would you like me to?
Can we talk about the EDR thing is my first question. If the answer to that is yes, then I can kind of answer it. Otherwise, I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, so we've got another solution that's going to be added to the top of this. So as I mentioned earlier, think of the cloud platform as our vending machine. And we've got a variety of snacks in there today that you saw come to life. And what you'll see in the future is continued in enhancements to more along the enterprise-wide solutions, some of which you just mentioned. So I can't let too much out of the bag right now, but definitely watch for something in the coming months as we add additional enterprise snacks to our vending machine.
Man, I just love snacks. So it sounds like, and would this be so? With that whole snacks concept, it sounds like, if I'm understanding this correctly, the cloud console is going to be a central console where we can purchase various products. So endpoint product might be different from this mysterious product that you can't talk about with 2 completely separate prices. And then you've got the tech bench and the tool set and whatever else integrates into this cloud console. All of these have separate prices because you can't buy a Snickers and a Milky Way at the same time in a vending machine. You have to put in your quarters 2 different times and hit the buttons, right?
Yeah, correct. That's a really good way to look at it. And the cloud platform today, again, is really focused on those business clients and the larger enterprises. And we've got some of those snacks ready, some additional snacks coming later this year. And what we don't have fully turned on are the full snack opportunities for what you were kind of calling the traditional consumer setup, or those really, really small businesses where they've got maybe a single machine inside of a dentist shop today. You can certainly deploy it and it will work for MB3 protection, or if you decide to use our standalone, just regular good old MB3, that will also work to serve your needs.
How would billing and licensing work in a multi-tenant capacity? So for example, I saw Alex had, his different groups. Can I say, well, I need 5 licenses now, and then 3 months later I need 10 more? Or is it all going to get billed at once? Because I think you guys are on an annual billing system, which makes most MSPs sad.
Alex, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so right now, multi-tenancy is not available in the current product, and we've been kind of mentioning that we're working towards having a much more MSP friendly type solution, and that will be coming in the coming months and quarters in the future, as well as different types of subscription models. So right now we're annual based. We're doing some testing with monthly billing, so you'll see something around monthly billing in the coming weeks and months. It is definitely somewhere we want to get to eventually. I don't have a solid time frame on when it's going to actually happen, but that is definitely something we're aware of and something that we want to bring to the table.
Okay. Yes, Andy, I believe that is correct. If I'm understanding this correctly, all rollback features or even future product would be an additional purchase on top of endpoint protection. That's because one's a Snickers and one's a Milky Way.
That's a fair way to put it currently today. And before that additional set of snacks comes out, we'll be surely ready to share more information on that with data sheets and just a lot more information, very similar to what you see today for our endpoint protection solution today, where we've got the full site built out. We can do a demo. You can purchase it. We have the data sheets. Watch for something in that space in the coming months.
And I don't know about you guys, but like taking a Snickers and a Milky Way and putting the two together and eating them at once does sound really good to me right now. We could call it a Snicky Way. Okay, does the Cloud Console or reporting have any GDPR concerns? And I don't know what that means other than gosh darn something something. So is there any personal information that would be up there from the endpoint?
Boy, that's kind of a loaded question.
So let me expand on that question so you can answer it properly. Let's say it detects a text file, and I call it creditcardnumbers.txt.
Right.
So you can see creditcardnumbers.txt in the report.
Yep, that'd be correct. Yeah, we're saying that's the example infected item. Yeah, I'd see what the name of the file is. Yep. I wouldn't.
But you're not going to see the contents of the file. So you're not going to see 4175. Let me get that out real quick. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. You're almost there.
Yeah. So you're not going to see the content of the file. You're just going to see the file name.
Right. Yep.
So as long as your end user doesn't have any really weird or awkward file names that you guys should talk about, I think you'll be okay there. We talked about multi-tenant, how it doesn't actually exist right now. How do you protect from killing the system by accident, like maybe Webroot did recently?
I can take that one, Alex. So we, very similar to any of the other security companies out there, this one is really, really important to us. And while I can't give you the secret sauce that's happening behind these things, what I can tell you is we have 4 and sometimes upwards of 6 to 7 fail-safes in place here before a definition or a new enhancement comes out to the product. So you've seen a couple hiccups from us over the years with a definition, detecting the wrong file, or maybe doing something that was out of scope of what you thought it should be doing. So each time that happens, we really, quite frankly, kind of get everybody in a room and we do a postmortem to figure out what exactly happened and how to tweak that process, even just a little bit each time to make sure that we're not doing that. And of course, any company out there is susceptible to something like this, but it is something that our team, the team that's making endpoint protection, and even Marcin, our founder, we are passionately, committed to making sure that we don't mess up a system. And even, Alex and us, we fix thousands of computers just like all of you. The last thing that we want to do is have a product come out there and be the cause of the disaster that you're trying to clean up.
GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation, an EU-wide regulation with big fines attached.
The EU side, yes, and we can certainly, I think, maybe take that one off a little bit and dive into the exact policies there. But we do have various items in place, whether it's traditional PII protection that we have, as well as EU specific regulations that we are complying to. So would love to take that offline, and we can, certainly talk about it on our forum so other people can see what that final answer is. But I think that'll require us to dig in a little bit and make sure that we get the proper answer back.
Okay. Follow up to the quarantine question. What would happen if it quarantines something that keeps the system from getting online? I would be concerned about not having an actual program that could be opened or opened in safe mode to restore files from. So I think that was kind of covered in your last one, but I think that is a solid response. So let's say your 4 to 6 fail safes
Yep.
to keep
Yep.
safe, and something bad happens. There's not a local console, and now we don't have the ability to get this computer online to do anything through the cloud console.
Yep.
So are we just SOL reformat?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, and that's I really appreciate the answer, to be completely honest, because it's something that keeps me up at night. When I'm fixing computers for my mom that's halfway across the country, or relatives that's not near me, and what we're doing with our product is, one, we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But when it does happen, that you've got everyone here committed to helping you actually solve it. And I'm not just saying that as lip service. I'll give you an example. We had something happened in an older operating system. This was about a year ago, and it was an XP specific client and had this weird XP boot kind of challenge. And the instant that it happened, one, we made sure that it was rectified as fast as possible on the machines that had not yet rebooted. But for the ones that had rebooted and were in this kind of hung state, and it was only about a dozen machines, Alex, myself, Marcin, our lead engineers, we all got together and actually came up with a really nice solution for this client. And albeit, we had to send them a boot disk and had to help them kind of make that offline-ish environment, we were able to help get them up and running. And again, it was only 12 machines, and it was the old school XP. But just to show you what happens when something like that goes down, all hands on deck. One, to take care of the client immediately, and then two, to make sure that it's something that we don't do moving forward.
Excellent. That seems, it seems like you guys at least are aware that it's a concern and that you do your best to avoid it, but sometimes accidents happen.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to. Can I disable billing without uninstalling for clients? So I'm wondering if he's saying, can we put the agent to sleep without having to remove it? And this might be if you pay me type of situation with a client that's not up to date on their invoicing.
Oh, interesting. Yep. I don't know that answer, to be completely honest. So if I understand the question, it's you maybe have a paying client and they've been paying you, you've been paying us, and then one month they decide to not pay you. Are you asking, can you essentially put it into a trial dormant type mode until you get the payment? Is that the question?
Let's answer it both ways. One, can we just put a pause on the license until they pay us again? And two, the much more reasonable question in my mind, can we put the agent on hold? Like, can we say, okay, this group of agents, can we just turn off all the scheduled stuff and make it not do its job until they pay us again?
On the first one, I don't know that answer, but as with all these things that we don't have a full answer for here today, we'll take them and then we'll share them back in the appropriate channels. And then on the second one, Alex, do you want to take that one and give a suggestion what you can do there?
Yeah. So if you wanted to think you had an entire group of endpoints that you're basically saying, I don't want it to have do any of its scheduled scans anymore. You could do that really for any setting. You can actually go and change the policy for that group and immediately deploy whatever the new setting might be. So that setting might be, I don't want you doing scans anymore. I don't want active protection on anymore. I don't want this setting done anymore. You could deploy that and it would be registered almost instantaneously. We hit that button, it would send it out to all those devices and it would start acting upon whatever that change might be. So to the second part, yes, you can do that today from the Cloud Console. But as far as the billing side, Sherwood's right. Like we would have to kind of look into that to see if you could kind of put the license on hold, so to speak. But if you wanted to deploy, this group, I need to stop them from having active protection, you could do that with the Cloud Console.
All right, I would say that's a reasonable question, that one.
Yep.
I guess I can't imagine, if a client doesn't pay you, I'm sorry, but you still have an obligation to your vendor, whether they paid you or not. That's unfortunately how this stuff works, and that's the crap we as MSPs have to deal with every day.
I bet. Yep.
So this is going to be the last question I answered. We've already answered 25 questions, guys. This is nuts.
Ooh.
All right, so this one looks like it's mostly a comment, but there could be a question in here somehow. So is this going to turn into a big pricey machine and new features are added as add-ons? Instead of having an application that protects your system from malware, you end up having to buy a base product that does pretty good, but if you want to be protected from crypto, it's another add-on. Sophos is kind of an example. They have a fantastic product that has done very well for us. But if you want protection from crypto, you have to get their Intercept X program. That costs almost the same as their standard product.
Yeah, so what I can tell you today is we have kind of what we're calling larger areas of the industry that we're going after. So if you think enterprise, that's the to be determined stuff that we mentioned coming out a little bit later. We have the mid-market and larger business solutions that you saw today. And then of course we have our consumer offering. So we're not looking to, splice and dice various components of Malwarebytes 3, for example, and say, web protection is X amount or, crypto is Y amount. What we're really trying to do is take all of the great point protections that we have today. And you kind of saw this last year, all these individual one-off solutions, we've combined that into one engine, which is MB3. And now the next logical step for us is to make a cloud console that serves those different business needs. Like I mentioned, kind of consumer, technician, maybe even a concept we're calling My CTO, or a smaller business, and of course the enterprises. So that's our current roadmap, and that's where we're headed with our stuff.
Excellent. And then somebody just popped in here. My understanding is that with Sophos, that's because it was based on a separate product they purchased, Hitman Pro. At some point, they may look at merging them into one unified product. So, but that's excellent. I forgot that they purchased that Hitman Pro product.
They did. Yep.
So I really appreciate your time on this, guys. This is going to conclude part 1 of our webinar. I really appreciate everyone popping in. There is a link up on the screen, malwarebytes.com/business/endpoint protection. And this is where you can go to learn more about the tool, and you can get a trial of the tool. And then also, I just want to toss out there, if you go to mspwebinars.com, that is where you can learn more about me, the webinars that I've done in the past, and some bonus material that is available for patrons of the MSP Webinars project that I've been working on for the last few months. So with that, thanks so much, guys, and I'm going to take this offline.
Thank you.